Hello everyone, I'm Justin, and for today's video, the hero is already dead. In an industry filled with generic fantasy that follows the same scripts every time, it is refreshing to sometimes find that unique idea that really tries to do something different. Even if it may not always stick the landing, but just putting the effort is something that as a viewer I can appreciate. And for today's video, I want to talk about one of those. That is right, today we will be taking a look at the 2023 anime called The Legendary Hero is Dead. But before we begin, here is a fair warning that there will be major spoilers ahead for the anime as well as the ending. So please take that in consideration. And with that said, let's move on with the video. The Legendary Hero is Dead has a simple premise. The gates of hell have been sealed by the legendary hero Xion, protecting us from all demons around the world. But the seal is starting to break, so he jumps back into action to reseal it. Unfortunately, he jumped on a trap made by a common farmer called Touka, and got himself killed. With the hero as the only capable of closing the gates, Henry the Necromancer puts the perverted Touka's soul into Xion's body so that he can pretend to be the hero and seal the gates. This is one of those unnecessarily ecchi animes. It really brings nothing to the table, but you know, a bit of ecchi is always welcome to me. And in general, it brings more eyes to the story. I mean, look at you. You click on the video for a reason, but I'm not judging. Touka is a perverted that loves two things: radish and tights. And you know both need some good stockings to make them looter. And his perverted personality is further fueled by his childhood friend Yuna, who follows him in the journey, as well as some other girls that he meets during the travels. So I did say that the general plot was to close the gates of hell, but let me develop a bit more on that. The early stages of the story mainly focus on Touka getting used to Xion's body. As Touka barely has any magic, he struggles to keep Xion's body from decaying. We also see him fighting a few demons, as well as Xion's former companion who wants to take over Xion's body, and who is also perverted in his own way. I mean, I appreciate the anime not only going for the male demographic, but also trying to reach the underappreciated female demographic. We also learn the power system of the world, as well as how humans fight demons, which is mainly using demon cores to use their abilities. Which to me, I thought was an interesting way to bring the abilities into the world, but still limiting them to the amount of mana that you own, thus making our hero extremely weak, and depend on him using cunning traps rather than straight up overpowering his enemies by force. This concept follows later into the story, as they fight a mad scientist that wants to create a skeleton army. And finally, the story lands on the final concept of necromancers as the last enemy, as they control demons to fight the humans and open the gates of hell. And Henry, the necromancer that put Touka's soul into Xion's body, is an outcast on the human side. So, I will be honest about this anime. I personally like the early episodes more than the later parts of the story. Yes, early on it was still fun and ecchi stuff, but it felt simple and straightforward, as something that you could enjoy without any complicated plotlines. But I felt that later on, the story gets a bit too complicated. All while our main protagonist is still acting all pervy and stuff, which kind of didn't suit the more serious situation and overall took me out of the story. I feel that these type of stories that attach the perverted main character and ecchi tags need to be realistic on their approach to the story. If you bring people in by showing girls in tights, then that is fine for me. But keeping an approach while you're trying to show our main protagonist as the tragic hero that lost his family kind of feels like you are using that trope to gain sympathy points while still maintaining him as the unlikable perverted guy, which makes me lose a bit of interest on the story by the end. The story may not be that strong, but I do admit that there are moments in the anime where the comedy lands incredibly well. Specifically at the beginning of the story, with the funny death of the hero and the naked companion covering the private parts with his powers. But I personally think that the story by itself is not that strong, but relies too much on the edgy aspects and the comedy. And of course, that opening song has to be in the top 5 of 2023. If you finished the anime and are looking for more, the manga is in fact already finished since 2020, and there is a sequel manga that started serialization in 2022 and its first volume released in March 2023, aligning with the release of the anime in April 2023, which leads me to believe that the anime was made to promote the manga, as serialization continues to this day. I personally haven't read the mangas, so I can't give too much information about it, aside from the sequel being called The Country of Gods arc. If you're looking for a decent comedy with some ecchi, attached to an interesting story that may or may not land to you, give The Legendary Hero is Dead a try. It may not be the strongest anime, but I'm sure you will get a few laughs out of it. And with that said, we come to the conclusion of this anime review. What do you guys thought of The Legendary Hero is Dead? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, see you guys next time.